Good evening, Namaskar. It's 9 p.m. and you're watching the news. We bring you news that needs to be informed, news which is free of clutter and full of facts. Over the next half hour, we'll bring you the top developments of the day. Prime Minister Modi meets the Nordic Prime Ministers. RBI raises key interest rates and much more. We'll also bring stories that you can connect with and stories that are offbeat but still matters to you. First, let's start with the top headlines this Wednesday evening. Second India-Nordic Summit concludes in Copenhagen. Prime Minister Modi lays stress on increasing trade, investment and technical partnership. After over 4 years, RBI hikes key rates. Repo rates increased to 4.4%, cash reserve ratio to 4.5%. Stock markets plummet. LIC's rupees 21,000 crore IPO open for common investors. Allotment of shares in demat account till May 16th. Shares to be listed for trading on May 17th. No confidence motion against Prime Minister Rajapaksa in Sri Lanka. Opposition accuses him of not complying with constitutional obligations. Change in weather in North India after heat wave over of last week. Yellow alert for rain now in Uttarakhand. Let's take a quick look at some more important news of the day. Ahead of Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Emmanuel Macron, French naval group pulls out of India's Navy P-75I submarine project. MP Navneet Rana and husband MLA Ravi Rana granted bail by special court in Hanuman Chalisa issue. MNS Chief Raj Thackeray says loudspeaker protest will not stop. 250 people detained. Rajasthan police arrest 52 people after clashes between two communities on Eid in Jodhpur. India logs 6.2% hike in death rate during 2020, reveals civil registration system data. Defence Ministry clarifies on non-disbursement of pension to defence pensioners for April, says annual identification data was not updated. IMD issues yellow alert in view of heavy rainfall in hill districts of Uttarakhand for 2 days. Tamil Nadu Governor refers anti-NEET bill to Centre for Presidential Assent. Twitter may charge a nominal fee for commercial and government users, says Elon Musk. Norway tops World Press Freedom Index 2022. India goes down to 150th position. And now news in detail. The second India-Nordic Summit concluded in Copenhagen on Wednesday. Prime Minister Modi, along with the 5 Prime Ministers of Nordic countries, pledged increased partnership in trade, investment and technology. Nordic countries are keen to invest in green energy and green technology. India and the Nordic countries will also work on a roadmap to cooperate in health and digital technology. The Prime Ministers also discussed the status of the Russia-Ukraine war, while underscoring the need to strike a balance in the Indo-Pacific. The summit was attended by Prime Ministers of Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden and Prime Minister of Iceland.
3 clusters which ran common to the Nordic Summit entire discussions. One is the need to combine the skill capabilities in Nordic countries with the scale of India. 2, clean and green growth solutions. And 3, to forge new innovation partnerships.
After an unscheduled monetary policy meeting on Wednesday, the RBI hiked the benchmark lending rate by 40 basis points to 4.4%. The measure will raise borrowing costs for corporates and individuals. It is aimed at containing inflation that has remained above the target of 6% for the last 3 months. The Monetary Policy Committee, headed by RBI Governor Shaktikant Das, also raised the amounts of deposits banks are required to maintain as cash reserve by 50 basis points to 4.5%. It is expected to suck out rupees 87,000 crore liquidity from the banking system. The CRR hike will be effective from May 21st. This is the first rate hike since August 2018. It is also first instance of the MPC making an unscheduled increase in the repo rate, or the rate at which banks borrow from the RBI.
The Monetary Policy Committee voted unanimously to increase the policy repo rate by 40 basis points, 40, by 40 basis points to 4.40% with immediate effect.
So you were listening to RBI Governor Shaktidan Das talking about increasing RBI repo rate. Moving ahead, the initial public offering of the country's largest life insurer, Life Insurance Corporation of India, that is LIC, opened for subscription today. The issue will be available till Monday. NSE data showed that the LIC issue was subscribed 0.64 times. The price band is fixed at Rs 902 to 949 per share, and the company is offering a discount of Rs 60 per share for policy holders and Rs 45 apiece for retail investors and LIC employees. The policy holders segment was subscribed 1.87 times, while the employees portion was subscribed 1.08 times. Investors who wish to subscribe to LIC IPO can bid in a lot of 15 equity shares and multiples thereafter. The shares will be listed on both BSE as well as the National Stock Exchange. Soon after the RBI's decision, equity markets fell sharply in the late afternoon trade. The 30-share BSE Sensex crashed 1,060.64 points or 1.86% to 55,915.35 in the late afternoon trade. NSE Nifty also tanked 317.75 points or 1.86% to 16,751.35. On Monday, the BSE benchmark went lower by 84.88 points. Equity markets were closed on Tuesday for Eid al-Fitr. On Wednesday, markets in Seoul and Hong Kong were in the red. Stock exchanges in the United States surged in trade on Tuesday. International oil benchmark Brent crude jumped 3.63% to $108.8 per barrel. And now talking about the changing weather conditions. The heat wave receded in many states of North India on Wednesday. Parts of Delhi experienced rain and hailstorm, bringing down temperature in the city. Delhi's base station Safdarjung Observatory recorded a maximum temperature of 38 degrees Celsius. According to the Met Department, the capital could remain cloudy for the next 3 days due to the western disturbance over northwest India. Rain brought down temperatures in Himachal Pradesh as well. The weather department had predicted showers in many districts of the state in the next 3 to 4 days. Maximum temperature is likely to remain in the range of 23 to 24 degrees Celsius till May 6th in many areas, including Shimla. Non-stop rain since yesterday brought problems of waterlogging in many cities of Telangana. And now news from other parts of the country. Service exports touched a record level of $254.4 billion in 2021-22. According to the Commerce Ministry, services exports were $26.9 billion in March, an all-time high in a single month. Telecommunications, computer and information services, and business services and transport have been leading contributors. The government slashed wheat production forecast by 5.7% to 105 million tons for the year 2021-22, crop year ending in June. Earlier, wheat production was estimated to be 111.32 million tons. Early onset of summer is cited as the main reason for the fall in estimates. Navy Chief Admiral R. Hari Kumar honoured personnel with this year's Gallantry and Vishisht Seva medals. Medals were presented to 34 personnel for gallantry leadership, professional achievements and display of distinguished service of high order during the Naval Awards. Ceremony held at the Southern Naval Command. Isro is building a spacecraft to orbit Venus to study what lies beneath the surface of the hottest planet and the clouds of sulfuric acid that surround it. Addressing a meeting on Venusian science, Isro Chairman S. Somnath said the project report has been prepared for the Venus mission. Moving ahead, daily tally of COVID-19 touched 3,205 new cases on Wednesday. The number of patients under treatment also increased to 19,509 or 0.05% of the total cases. The national rate of recovery of COVID patients is 98.74%. Moving ahead, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday asserted that India is committed to meeting the needs of the poorest and the most vulnerable. He said India is building next-generation infrastructure to realize their aspirations. In a video message to the 4th International Conference on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, the Prime Minister emphasized that in any development effort, people should be given importance.
To make our future resilient, we have to work towards a resilient infrastructure transition, which is the primary focus of this conference. Resilient infrastructure can also be the centerpiece of our wider adoption efforts.
President Ramnath Kovind on Wednesday called upon the Assam government to make all possible efforts to promote and develop Bodo language and literature. Addressing the 61st Annual Convention of the Bodo Sahitya Sabha, he said the conference has played an important role in ensuring that Bodo language is included as a medium of instruction in schools and higher educational institutions.
स्कूली शिक्षा के माध्यम के रूप में बोडो भाषा के प्रयोग को स्वीकृति दिलाने तथा उच्च शिक्षा में बोडो भाषा को स्थान दिलाने जैसे प्रयासों में बोडो साहित्य सभा ने अग्रणी भूमिका निभाई। आप लोगों के प्रयास के फलस्वरूप बोडो भाषा को असम राज्य की एसोसिएट ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज का दर्जा भी प्राप्त हुआ है।
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Wednesday said that the younger generation needs to be informed about the sacrifices of our freedom fighters. He said not much information is available about these contributions to inspire the youth. The Vice President was launching the biography of late freedom fighter and politician Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna. He called Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna a fearless leader who worked for the poor and the downtrodden. It's time for a short break here. On the other side, how are video games helping children undergoing cancer treatment? All this after this short break. You stay tuned to Sansad TV. Welcome back after the break. You're watching the news. Now let's take a look at all the latest developments from the war front in Ukraine. The head of the European Commission has called on the 27-nation bloc to ban oil imports from Russia. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen urged EU's member states to phase out imports of crude oil within 6 months and refined products by the year end. She also proposed that Russia's largest bank and 2 other major banks be disconnected from the SWIFT international banking system. The proposal needs to be unanimously approved to take effect and are likely to be subject of the fierce debate. Russia's defense minister has reiterated that Moscow's forces will seek to destroy convoys of arms shipments to Ukraine from its Western allies. Russian military said that it disabled 6 railway stations used to supply Ukrainian forces in the country's east with Western-made weapons. Russia's foreign ministry has announced sanctions against 63 Japanese officials, journalists and professors for engaging in what it called unacceptable rhetoric against Moscow. Japanese Prime Minister, Foreign Minister and Defense Minister are among those targeted by the measures, which include an indefinite ban on entering Russia. Another convoy of buses left Mariupol in a new attempt by Ukraine, the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross to evacuate civilians from the besieged port city. The buses were heading for the Ukrainian-controlled city of Zaporizhzhia. More than 100 evacuees from Mariupol arrived in Zaporizhzhia on Tuesday. The Speaker of the Russia's parliament said NATO was arming Ukraine to attack Russia in January, and Putin's decision to start a special military operation prevented a huge tragedy. He also said that Ukraine's citizens were only expendable material for Washington and nationalism had become the state ideology of Kiev. Hundreds of Ukrainian refugees are camping out in Mexico City and waiting for the United States government to allow them into the country. About 500 evacuees were waiting on Tuesday in large tents under a searing sun on a dusty field on the east side of Mexico's sprawling capital. The camp has been open only a week and from 50 to 100 people are arriving every day. Some refugees have already been to the US border in Tijuana, where they were told that they would no longer be admitted. And now let's take a look at the news from the other parts of the world. Sri Lanka's main opposition party moved a no-confidence motion against Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and his cabinet. A group of the United People's Force Party led by Sajith Premadasa moved the motion and demanded that the Speaker of Parliament hold a vote on it. The opposition alleged that Rajapaksa did not discharge his constitutional obligations when the country is going through its worst economic phase. The opposition would need to secure a majority in the 225-member parliament to get its motion passed. The United People's Force has 54 votes and is expected to get support from the smaller parties. The ruling parties has around 150 votes that has come down substantially since the protest began over the economic crisis in the country. Elon Musk appeared on the Met Gala red carpet on Tuesday with his supermodel mother, May Musk. The Tesla CEO struck some goofy poses for the camera person and even shared his plans for after acquiring the microblogging site Twitter.
May Musk brought son Elon Musk to the Met Gala because, as she said, the billionaire needs to take a break.
And I needed him to get away from work.
Musk was more than forthcoming about the recent news about him. But he also suggested his intentions are often maligned as something other than working towards the greater good.
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but I think it's mostly paved with bad intentions. But every now and again there's a good intention in there, and hopefully my good intentions do not pave the road to hell.
Musk also commented on his detractors, but said he tries to take these things with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to online trolls.
You can't take that too seriously, you know. And you know, I believe in like turn the other cheek and these sort of principles that would lead to ideally a better civil discourse.
That intention for greater discourse propelled him to buy Twitter for $44 billion to take it private. But he also reiterated that bots, trolls and scams better watch out.
Because that's obviously diminishing the user experience, and we don't want people getting tricked out of their money and that kind of thing. I'm definitely on the warpath. So if somebody's operating a bot and troll army, I'm definitely their enemy.
And as for his costume,
I think I sort of look like a Downton Abbey or something.
Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
Time to take a look at some more important stories from other parts of the world. Dozens of demonstrators converged on the US Supreme Court on Tuesday to express their support and opposition to a draft decision indicating the US Supreme Court may overturn a landmark 1973 ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. Opponents of abortion rights outnumbered the advocates. Abortion has been one of the most divisive issue in US policies for nearly a half-century. A 2021 poll found that 59% of US adults believe that it should be legal in all or most cases, while 39% thought that it should be illegal in most or all cases. Beijing on Wednesday closed 10% of the stations in its vast subway system as an additional measure against the spread of the coronavirus. The subway authority said that the move is to shut 40 mostly downtown stations was being taken as part of the epidemic control measures. No date for resumption of service was given. Beijing is on high alert for the spread of COVID-19 with restaurants and bars limited to takeout only. Gyms are closed and classes suspended indefinitely. In the United States, the governor of New Mexico City is asking President Joe Biden to declare a disaster as firefighters try hard to keep the largest blaze in recent memory burning from destroying more homes. The fire is the result of two blazes that merged. One of them was a prescribed fire that jumped containment lines. About 15,500 homes have been evacuated and around 170 homes have been destroyed. Iraqi army has extended its control over the northern district of Sinjar after fierce clashes between the army and the militia linked to Kurdish separatist group. At least 3,000 people fled Sinjar when clashes intensified on Monday between the Iraqi army and the YBS, a militia group tied to the Turkish insurgent Kurdistan Workers' Party. Many were Yazidis displaced during 2014 Islamic State onslaught and are bracing for another round of violence after returning to their homes only a few years ago. North Korea fired an unidentified projectile towards the sea of its east coast. The test comes about a week after the North vowed to develop its nuclear forces at the fastest possible speed. It marks the North's 14th major weapons test this year and comes days before South Korea's newly elected president takes office on May 10th. Details of the projectile, including its flight range and altitude, were not immediately available. Japan's Coast Guard said it could be a ballistic missile. And now, many researchers have proved that use of video games can be as a helpful tool in the treatment of various medical conditions. A recent trial in Spain now shows that video games can help children with cancer deal with the pain that they cause by their treatments. Doctors in Spain are getting their youngsters to play on gaming consoles while they undergo chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Take a look at this report.
Teenager Andrin is being treated for cancer in the pediatric oncology ward at Madrid's La Paz hospital. He's playing Battle Royale in his hospital room. The action-packed video game, however, is just not a silly distraction. There is evidence that it could actually help him beat cancer. The Journal of Medical Internet Research published a study on how gaming can help children with cancer manage pain. Adrian says it helps him to be calm and at ease. Doctors call gaming a therapeutic element, even if it is not a pharmacological element. Between January 2016 and 2017, doctors on the oncology ward carried out a study into the use of video games to relieve pain due to mucositis. Mucositis is caused by chemotherapy. It triggers terrible inflammation, sores and ulcers in the mouth, throat and esophagus. In the study, 20 children who either had leukemia or recovered a bone marrow transplant were allowed to play video games on PlayStation. The doctors saw a 20% reduction in the usage of morphine and a 44% reduction in requests of bolus, the extra hits of the drug that patients can request to help with pain. The study looked at 4 to 17 years old with the worst levels of mucositis. They were unable to consume a solid diet and in some cases couldn't consume any food or drink at all. The usual procedure for patients with these symptoms is to hook them up to a morphine pump to elevate pain. After 24 hours on morphine, with open access to the video games, the children were given a questionnaire about their pain intensity. The team also recorded the total morphine administered. The results showed that pain intensity reported in the previous 24 hours reduced significantly after playing electronic video games. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And now news from the field of science and technology. A California-based company nearly pulled off an impossible feat of catching a falling rocket on Tuesday in its attempt to make them reusable for satellite launches. Want to take a look? Please see this report.
Rocket Lab regularly launches 59 feet rockets from the remote Maya Peninsula in New Zealand to deliver satellites into space. The Electron rocket was launched on Tuesday morning and sent 34 satellites into orbit before the main booster section began falling to Earth. Its descent was slowed to about 10 meters per second by a parachute. That's when a helicopter crew sprang into action, dangling a long line with a hook below the helicopter to catch the booster's parachute lines. The helicopter crew briefly caught the spent rocket, but when the load exceeded the parameters from tests and simulations, they had to jettison it. The rocket fell into the Pacific Ocean, where it was collected by a waiting boat. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And now all the action from the world of sports. Beginning with cricket, in the 48th match of the IPL played at the DY Patil Stadium in Navi Mumbai last evening, the table toppers Gujarat Titans had to bear their second defeat in 10 matches. Batting with first, Gujarat Titans were restricted to 143 for 8, with Kagiso Rabida taking 4 wickets for Punjab Kings. Chasing 144 to win, Punjab did it in style, reaching the target with 2 wickets down and 4 overs to spare. Shikhar Dhawan scored 62, not out for the Kings. Moving to now football, Liverpool survived a first half scare to reach the Champions League final with 3-2 win at Villarreal on Tuesday that secured a 5-2 aggregate victory after the night had threatened to turn sour for Jurgen Klopp's side. The visitors fell 2-0 down with an insipid first half performance before fighting back with 3 goals in 12-minute spell after the break to advance to their third European Cup final in 5 seasons. The second leg of the second Champions League semi-finals will be played tonight at Real Madrid Bernabeu Stadium. Real have to overturn a one-goal deficit after losing 4-3 in Manchester against City. There is a vast difference between the pedigree of the teams if history is taken into account. Real have been European champions a record 13 times. City are still trying to win their first Champions League. This, however, would not deter City to make it an all-English final against Liverpool. In tennis now, former world number 1 Andy Murray saw off Canadian 14th seed Denis Shapovalov 6-1, 3-6, 6-2 to reach its Madrid Open last 16. Murray next meets current world number 1 Novak Djokovic for a spot in the quarters in the pair's 37th encounter and first since 2017. Djokovic, who eased Frenchman Gael Monfils 6-3, 6-2, leads the rivalry against Murray 25-11 with their last 7 matches coming in finals. Carlos Alcaraz also progressed to the last 16 after the Spanish 7th seed beat Georgia Nicolos Basilashvili 6-3, 7-5. In the first round, Sebastian Korda ousted fellow American and 15th seed Riley Opolka 6-3, 7-5, while Dutchman Botic van de Zandschulp saved a match point in the second set before going on to beat Spaniard Pablo Carreño Busta 6-7, 7-6, 6-3. And before we wrap this bulletin, let's take a relook at the headlines. Second India-Nordic Summit concludes in Copenhagen. Prime Minister Modi lays stress on increasing trade, investment and technical partnership. After over 4 years, RBI hikes key rates. Repo rate increased to 4.4%, cash reserve ratio to 4.5%. Stock markets plummet. LIC's rupees 21,000 crore IPO open for common investors. Allotment of shares in Demat account till May 16. Shares to be listed for trading on May 17. No confidence motion against Prime Minister Rajapaksa in Sri Lanka. Opposition accuses him of not complying with constitutional obligations. Change in weather in North India after heat wave over all of last week. Yellow alert for rain now in Uttarakhand. That's all we have time for in this bulletin. Keep watching Sansad TV for more updates. Good night. Namaskar.